We've talked to so many people in the music industry about the changes and what has happened in the last 2 months or so. You said that you've been more busy now communicating with people than you ever had before and talking about where things go from here.
We participate with a lot of different nonprofits. We're sort of a collaboration unit, and it doesn't happen very often when all of them hit crises at the same time. And so that sort of changes the rules for us. Yesterday, for example, was a date that the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, had applications due for their, the new funds that they have for this. For us, we have 3 organizations who are eligible for that, so we have to do everything multiple times. So it just gets more complicated. For an organization like Detroit Chamber Winds, our season was almost all over already. For the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival, which is supposed to go on in June, and here we've spent all the money and time that we need to present that, but now it can't happen in June. Then it's a much more complicated equation. So the timing is like everything in life, timing is everything here.
So when you talk about looking forward and what being in the arts, being able to perform or have people gather in spaces, what are the biggest conversations you're having right now about some of the biggest challenges?
One of the things we do is the summer festival, and we didn't want to be out in front of the big summer festivals about canceling or postponing, but we finally figured we needed to do this. So you can look on the website for big summer festivals, Tanglewood, Aspen, they're all doing things still, but will that happen? I'm not confident. And so we all are talking to each other about, how can this work? What should we be doing? What's the long-term investment we should make in streaming? Our audience tends to be elderly. And of course, now we're in a COVID hotspot with an elderly audience trying to get together in big spaces. That's not a great place to be right at the moment. On the other hand, our organizations are relatively small, and so we're flexible.
What are some of your musicians telling you about maybe how unsure they are about what things will look like?
The people who struggle the most are the sort of young professional people who aren't associated with bigger institutions in any sort of ongoing way. And we're trying to figure out how can we help those people sort of stay going as we go on. It's a challenge because we can stream a piano recital from somebody's living room, but how much of that can you do? And the musicians themselves can't get together to do things. And for that to happen, we need to be farther along in what's safe here. Right? So that's part of the challenge for us is we can't really even get the musicians together to make stuff happen that we could then stream out.
How do you see this as a disruption or a forever change in the arts and culture community?
How the field is going to play itself out with this is going to be a really interesting model because classical music has always been something that audiences tend to come to after their kids are gone. So the audiences are still going to be older, and how that's going to play itself out is a question that's sort of beyond my pale. We have to stay flexible and open.
What would you say to people to keep in mind when they think about the classical music community right now?
Think of it the other way around, which is how do we stay relevant and in front of people all the time? Classical music is not like selling potato chips. It's not like if you package it up the right way, everybody will buy it. If there's not that kind of demand. And our audience tends to be people who are curious, intellectually curious, and will be willing to take some risk with us. So I think they'll go with us once we can find a way to communicate that makes sense. Much harder to do electronically. I was thinking about it this morning as we need to do some solicitations, and I know that's not really the art, but it has something to do with it. We're not used to soliciting people on the phone, right? That's something you do in person. Our audience is very generous, but I'm not used to doing that without being sitting across the table or across the desk from someone.
Could we just continue to check the website for updates and where you'll be going for both organizations?
Wearing the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival's hat, we've postponed stuff that we're going to do in June, and we have the option of doing stuff in the end of August. In the meantime, we're working with different ways to touch our audience to create musical experiences that people will cherish and enjoy in little snippets, at least. For the Detroit Chamber Winds, the season is now over. What does the next season look like? I think everybody's in a sort of a wait and see mode. Many of our musicians are involved with the Detroit Symphony, and what happens there is going to affect all of us.